Today I have a very special guest, Jamie Arthur, who's the CEO of Property Webmasters, an agency specializing in web design and marketing services for real estate agents specifically. This is a long chat. It's about a good, almost an hour long, and in it we cover many things to do with web design, marketing, lead conversion, which I think will be specifically quite useful for agents looking to set up their new agency. Just some of the considerations to take into account before setting it up, as well as established agencies looking to change tactic and perhaps focus on an area that they haven't focused on before, particularly in relation to lead gen. So grab the popcorn and here we go. Okay, so today I have Jamie Arthur, who's the managing director of Property Webmasters, based out of the UK, specializing in real estate marketing and web development, and really covering all over the world. No, you have clients from the UK to Spain, all over the shop. Now, whereabouts is your client base?
Yeah, well, we've got a lot of clients based in the UK, around Europe, Middle East. We've got a handful of clients in the Middle East, the Caribbean, and a couple in the US as well. So yeah, quite a.
And you specialize in real estate. That's your bag, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Property marketing specialists. So yeah, we only focus purely on the property and real estate industry. And working with estate agents and property developers and anybody in between.
I mean, you've got a few clients here in the Costa del Sol. How did you break into that market?
Well, we've been around now for over 15 years, so we've gained up quite a lot of organic traffic in that time. We've got fairly strong organic rankings from an SEO perspective, which has helped our business. We'll come on to the topic of SEO at some point during this conversation, but yeah, we've managed to grow organically thanks to SEO, to be honest, and thanks to word of mouth. But in the last sort of 2 to 3 years, we've really been pushing for greater growth, and yeah, we're riding that wave as things stand.
So here's a question for you. An agent comes to you and says, "Look, I want to do some digital marketing. There's all these different channels available. I got $1,000 a month to spend."
Mm-hmm.
What would be your typical answer to that question?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a question that comes up quite a lot. Like in any industry, any business, they're restricted to a certain degree by budgets. One of the biggest expenses for any business is marketing. So you've got to spend it wisely. And as things stand, there are just so many options available to estate agents. Do they look at social media? Do they look at property portals? Do they look at SEO? Do they look at newsletter marketing, retargeting, paid search? So there are just so many options, and it's difficult to diagnose with any clear certainty which direction you should go. You need to sort of obviously take that consultative approach with a client and say, what have you tried? What are you currently doing? What has worked? What hasn't worked? What market are you operating in? What type of client are you looking for? So there's quite a lot to look out for before diagnosing exactly what it is that you should do moving forward.
Would it be fair to say, do you think, on a very general scheme, that agents are listing agents? Because in the UK, you don't really have MLSs, but here we do when they share listings. So yeah. Agents that are listing agents, the typical go-to places to promote is things like property portals. Yeah. Non-listing agents, which there's plenty of over here, because they have access to the properties of other agents, they would typically go more down the route of lead gen through things like Google ads, Facebook ads, email marketing, that kind of stuff. Do you find that same thing?
Yeah. I mean, I think within the real estate industry as a whole, I think there is an over-reliance on property portals. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are a great resource for lead generation, but I think that's putting too much emphasis on advertising with property portals. I mean, so some agents might advertise with up to 20 property portals globally, and putting all of that marketing investment into the property portals as a whole is I don't know, it may be working, but we feel that it's a bit short-sighted, because you're not really growing your brand, you're not really attracting sellers or landlords or vendors in any way, shape or form. It really is just a short-sighted sale for in our opinion. And
so it's kind of like a tap. both of them, portals and lead gen through advertising campaigns, isn't it? It's a tap,
Exactly.
which the good thing about it is you get water straight away. The thing that isn't so great about it is the moment you have to turn the tap off,
Exactly.
the water stops and you get no leads.
100%. Yeah, it's a good analogy. I mean, it is a good resource. So we would never encourage anybody to stop the portals altogether. But we feel that when we're speaking to people, I mean, on quite a lot of occasions, we're talking about marketing to clients, and they just sort of dismiss it completely because they're already advertising with three of the major portals, and it's kind of, like I say, short-sighted. You've got to be investing in a multi-channel approach to build the brand awareness, to engage with people that you might potentially have missed out on. You might have a database there that's full of low-hanging fruit with regards to customers. How do you engage with past customers? There are so many things to consider, and putting all of that emphasis on the property portals is really quite naive in my opinion.
So let's talk about the big one, SEO.
SEO.
I moved, just so to clarify for the sake of this conversation, my area is of operation, if you like, is like the Marbella area. And within the Marbella area, there is, as you know, I mean, you have several clients here too. Um, there's 1,500 to 2,000 agents, and they all want to be top of page one of Google for villa for sale in Marbella, luxury property for sale Marbella.
Yeah.
You got 10, 14 spots on page one, of which organically half of them are property portals.
Yeah.
Maybe a quarter are long established businesses that do exactly whatever it is that we're searching for. And they've been doing SEO for a decade,
Yeah.
which leaves, in my book, two or three potential spots for those terms.
Yeah.
So what would be your advice if I was an agent in Marbella saying to you, look, I'd like to do some SEO. I understand it's a long game and that it has to be part of a marketing strategy, so I can turn the tap on with the portal or Google Ads or whatever, depending on whether a listing agent. But I do also understand that I need to do some SEO so that in the long term I can start getting traffic organically and therefore generate some business that way, as well as get found online.
Yeah.
What would you be saying to that person that says, but I want to be page one of Villa for Sale Marbella? How much is it going to cost me and how quickly can you get me there?
I don't know whether I would obviously treat the client with as much respect as possible, but I mean, like you say, you've just alluded to it there, where it's SEO really isn't a viable option for every estate agent, and I think SEO has become a bit of a buzzword where estate agents think, oh yeah, SEO is what I need to be doing. It's just because it's been around the longest. So in that scenario, we normally sort of have the obviously consultative discussion with the clients, and we would say, look, realistically, you're vying for 3 positions on page 1 for villas for sale in Marbella, and realistically, is it ever going to happen? You might in the next, I don't know if it takes 2 or 3 years to get to somewhere close, maybe the bottom of page 2 within the SERPs. You still then, is that actually going to make any tangible difference to your business? Whereas all of that investment, let's say you were spending $1,000 a month on SEO efforts for 24 months, spent £24,000, you're bottom of page 2. Where's the return on investment in that? So with regards to coming back to the portal side of things as well, and with your analogy of turning the tap on, you can literally turn the tap on with leads overnight with social media, with paid search. So we would always encourage people to do a little bit of SEO, whether it might just be content writing to make your website more engaging, and to perhaps pick up a little bit of organic traffic, but it certainly needs to be a multi-channel approach with any marketing activity. That includes the portals as well.
Let's move on to the lead gen through social media and Google Ads. What should an agent consider when they hear X agents doing Facebook ads and Google ads and stuff like that? I've got my grand. After your fees, that leaves me with about €3 to spend on actual ads. But forgetting that's the joking aside. They've got a budget of maybe it's $2,000 on ads to spend a month.
Well, if it's just sort of the paid advertising route that you're going down, so if you're going down paid social or paid search, then We combine the two, so you're working the two alongside each other. Another which isn't anything new to anybody that's been in digital marketing for any period of time is the production of landing pages as well, to make any traffic that you are generating, making sure that that person that's come to the website or come to the landing page has the best possible experience, and they're finding the information that's relevant to their initial search in the first place. There's also the dynamic ad side of things as well, so you can run dynamic product ads through your social media channels. And that's great for remarketing and retargeting. And off the back of all of this audience, all of this traffic, you're building audiences as well, which you can then retarget further down the line. So it is very much a multi-channel approach.
So you would say that both are worth using in the right format. With a landing page, would you nearly always suggest a landing page? Whatever an agent said, look, I've just spent a bunch of money on my cool new website, so I don't want to send traffic to like an ugly page with 6 pictures on it. I want to send traffic to my website so they can see in all its glory how wonderful it is. What would be your advice to them at that point if they're going to do some Google ads, for example?
Yeah, it really it depends what kind of property or development that they're trying to push. We found that with landing pages, it's generally the new developments and off-plan projects that get the best results. But with regards to just generic search terms that you might be paying for traffic for, then we would certainly encourage people to be getting directed to the website itself, which brings us on to a whole new topic, which is the website and how a website performs. Because with the best will in the world, you could be spending £100,000 a month on marketing, but if there's nothing there to engage the user at the end of that journey, then you're just throwing money down the drain.
What would be some things that an agent thinking of changing their website or getting their first real estate website for a startup, regardless of who they use, whether it be you or someone else?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think are the things that come to mind first? Like what should they be looking as a minimum to be asking for? What are the criteria?
What for the website itself? Like what
Yeah,
needs to be?
the website itself.
Yeah, well, the website itself needs to be fast, needs to be easy to use, needs to be accessible, and it needs to be informative. It also has to be relevant to the user as well. So if you're I don't know, for some reason attracting traffic from searches that are conducted for property for sale in Benavis, and your website doesn't have any properties available in that particular location, and it's not going to be a very good experience for that particular user. So it has to be very informative and relevant at the same time. Accessible, like I've said, accessible in the way that people can obviously access it. It needs to be mobile responsive, which is nothing new, but the mobile responsiveness is improving every day, and website speed is also a massive aspect of having a productive web presence.
With web design, a few years ago, the idea of mobile first was introduced.
Mm-hmm.
4 years ago now, maybe something like that.
Yeah, there or thereabouts. Yeah.
And the idea of that was that you should think of your website from a mobile perspective as opposed to a desktop perspective in all its formats, in terms of how it's used and how even how you like it to look. You got to bear that in mind. But it does seem that web development, at least for the real estate side of things, has shifted a little bit away from pretty towards functional.
Yeah.
Because of there's an infinite number of device types. So back in the day when everything was on a desktop, then you just made this thing that looked beautiful on a landscape on a PC, and everybody was kind of expecting that they were going to have to do this little weird thing with their fingers to try and zoom into the page to read it, right? With mobile first, which was, I say, several years ago now, what the idea was that it's all changing and it's more about the mobile experience. And I think in most cases, if you look at someone's Google Analytics and look at the split, if you throw tablets into the mix with mobiles as a mobile device, most of the time that I see in real estate is 60% plus of the mix of traffic. But I've found that agents are still thinking about their websites 100% desktop version.
Yeah.
and therefore when they're asking for certain things on it or designs or looks, they could easily spend 50% of the time worrying about things that really isn't going to be that relevant in most devices that the website's seen on. Is that something that you find as well?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's just not specific to the real estate industry. So if you're going through, I mean, we obviously work with web projects. If you're going through a web design project with a client, then they would automatically anticipate seeing the desktop version first, which obviously isn't right based on user trends. So we've got to adopt that mobile first. And I mean, every day mobile use is becoming more and more relevant over desktop use. And it's I can't really pin it down to anything and why there is that conception of wanting things to be. I mean, I've started out with web design going back 18 years now. So I remember every trend with website design, from your gradients to your background shapes, your damask sort of floral backgrounds and things like that. So you're right exactly in what you say. It is becoming much simpler, and I think with website design trends, it is going more down the route of just flat basic colors, nice popping CTAs, letting the images do the design work for you. So it's less going on, and it's more about user experience and interaction really, and data capture.
So would you advise an agent that wants a new website to come to you with a sketch on a piece of paper of how he sees it looking, or would it be better if they came to you first and explained what they're after, and let you come back with an outline of what it might look like? Which way around is?
Yeah, I mean, 99% of the time we take care of the whole design process as part of a project. I mean, in the odd scenario, we'll have a client where we're working with an external designer that they know and they've already worked on the design, and then we'll take over the development. But that is in very, very rare circumstances. And to be honest, the projects don't go as efficiently, and the end product isn't as good when we do that. But we can't always educate the clients in that.
And another question that gets asked a lot, well, particularly for startups, not so much for existing agents, for new agencies, is what order do you think they should do things in? Because generally there's accepted practice that they should spend the first 50% of their time thinking about their business card, and then the remaining 25% of the time wondering about what the About Us photograph should look like.
Yeah.
And then 25%, the rest, the website, the marketing, all that. But joking aside, I've been involved with projects where it's the standard thing, where sort of like websites, get that rolling, get it all connected up to whatever MLS is, then the marketing and lead gen sort of gradually follows suit after. But I've also been in projects where, particularly when it's a non-listing agent, which generally new agencies don't have listings when they start up, where they've done the marketing a month before they've even got a website finished.
Yeah.
They're generating leads and sort of getting sales into that pipeline, so that they don't have which is what bit I'm getting at. They don't have this issue where if the web project extends to say 2 or 3 months, which you can do quite easily between waiting for content to go backwards and forwards and this and the other, to then start discussing the online marketing and the lead gen, to then agreeing all those particulars to do with that, landing pages, whatever goes with that. So then maybe there's another month delay, and then the campaigns start. So where it is effectively month 5, where it's only been money going out, that's when the first ad starts appearing, or the first portal gets this listing, or whatever, whichever marketing channel you're using. And because there is an average period of time from lead to sale in real estate, it's a long buyer's life cycle of, it could be 30 to 90 days, and in some cases it could be several months.
Exactly, yeah.
It can be up to a year, and it's not unusual to find agents selling to last year's leads and so on. But it generally, unless you get lucky, isn't this week's leads or next week's sales. Even if they wanted to buy it straight away, there is even the process of actually doing the selling, viewing and paperwork and so on. So there's an extended period of time. And what then happens is you're into month, say it was a 3-month period, you got to give the lead gen campaigns, a chance to start trickling, start moving things and getting viewings and things going. By the time it gets to month 2 of the lead gen campaigns, it's actually something like month 8 since they've been forking out money left, right, and center for different things.
Yeah.
And cash flow starts getting a little bit, things people start getting a little bit nervous, and they're very likely to make rash decisions in their campaigns unless they
Mhm.
have substantial funding or just very good planning to get some quick wins. And
Mhm.
that's perhaps where the order in which they do things can play a part, even with the SEO or a fancy website. Or what's your views on that?
Yeah, well, you're right. It is a long cycle for people who take that approach. I mean, it would always start if it's a startup company, then it would always start with the branding exercise. I don't think you can get much done without getting your brand right, and obviously getting your social media handles all set up. So once the brand is done, I mean, if they were coming to us for a web design project, I mean, it could take 4 weeks, it could take 7 months, depending on the complexity of the project. So it is quite a big window of development time there. So what we find is when we're having conversations, because we offer both the website software solutions and the marketing services, we find that people are a bit reluctant to start the marketing before the website's complete, when really the marketing should start as soon as the brand's launched. You should be setting up, you should be building that anticipation. You should at least have a holding page up to try and generate a few leads or a bit of interest. So while all of this is going on, you really need to start building that traction, because from day one, when you launch the website, it's not sit back and let's watch the money roll in time. It's really, that's when the hard work starts. So if you can start that hard work as early as possible as part of the journey, then we would encourage any client to do that.
I mean, I don't think people are perhaps as naive as they used to be, or agents as naive as they used to be about internet and websites and so on. But there was always, and probably still is, an element, which sounds ridiculous to say given what we do for a living, but
Mhm.
where they have this sensation that once their website is live,
Mhm.
it's then on the internet, so then business shall come to them.
Yeah, yeah,
And in most cases, I mean, if you have a very niche product where the SEO is going to be, if you have SEO being done to it and it's very niche, it's a particular area with a little competition, and you get a quick result in it, okay, yes, you can get some quick results from the website itself. But in most cases, it's a beautiful looking website that fulfills many different functions.
yeah,
But it isn't that just because it's out there, it doesn't mean people are seeing it.
yeah.
And that sounds stupid to say it in 2021, but I
Mhm.
feel that's still the mentality of a lot of people. And they kind of have to think of it as it's not the same as opening your shop front on a busy high street, not that those exist anymore, where there's footfall from the moment you open the doors and put the shutters up. A website is one of billions and billions and billions,
Yeah,
and if you're in a competitive market, you're gonna have to send people to it somehow or get their attention to go to it if you want them to see it. So, but it really is a case of excitement. Here it comes, here come the sales, and then this weird pause, slight depression,
yeah,
concern over cash flow. We need to do some marketing, and it all happens a little bit too slow in my mind. I think you nailed it in that once you got your branding sorted out and you're getting your website built, even if it's getting it all ready so that day one of the website being built, you switch everything on so leads start coming in that day.
that's
That's
mhm.
the key, because unless you have very deep pockets or very patient investors, there is going to be a 6 to 9 month period quite easily where zero is coming back in and everything's going out. And
Exactly.
and if you then get just a little bit of bad luck that it coincides with a pandemic or a Brexit or whatever,
Mhm.
it then just becomes a very messy situation that could be avoided in my view. So I think hand in hand with that, there is a missing ingredient, isn't there? So you got your website, you're an
Mhm.
agent, you got your website, you've got some marketing lined up with yourself or whoever to get some leads in, and maybe sort of a mixture of channels so that you have a short-term, medium, and long-term strategy with SEO, lead gen, that kind of stuff now. So you got your leads there, and you got your super duper website that's on its way. But there is a missing ingredient if you're dealing with modern real estate in a competitive market, in my view, and
Mhm.
that is the treatment of those leads.
Yeah. Oh
Let's
yeah.
just starting with where you're going to put them. Let's just call it that the CRM.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the CRM traditionally is where you would store your leads, and all the communications would get recorded, and Most, at least in the Costa del Sol, the MLSs actually offer an inbuilt CRM as part of the software for managing, for sharing the properties and so on. But you got your storage place, which is your CRM, and it could be the what you could use the one from the MLS, or you could use a third party one, a property base, a HubSpot, a Salesforce. There's hundreds of the damn things. But that's just part of it. It's how you're gonna treat those leads and what your follow up is gonna be. Because most people that are filling in forms, whether it be in a portal or on a landing page, are doing multiple forms from multiple different agencies.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really the quickest to the post in most cases wins and gets the deal, but also just that treatment being I think it's something that the lead follow-up process, which is my area of expertise, is something which gets thought of. I just said that we think of the marketing a bit too late and the
Yeah.
lead gen. Well, this gets thought once the marketing doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it's even later. It's what how are we treating these leads that are coming in? Because again, if they don't have a lot of experience with lead gen, this applies to new agencies or existing agencies that have traditionally relied on walk-ins and listings on portals and inbound inquiries more than leads. And they're shifting, maybe that's dried up a little bit for whatever reason, market's changed, and they're shifting their emphasis to do a bit more direct lead gen, could be through social media ads or email campaigns or whatever. And they're actually changing their business model a little bit to try and convert some of these leads. And certainly from my experience, probably 8 out of 10 times, you could just in a 15-minute conversation before they start establish whether they're set up correctly to convert those leads to sales.
Yeah.
Just in a pre-conversation about what they're using, what's your CRM, how do you follow up leads, and again, 8, maybe 9 times out of 10, some are excellent. There's no question about it. But most of the time, a lead follow-up for an agent is, well, we get the lead and then we send an email and then we make a call and then 3 days later we put something in our Outlook that pings up and tells us to give them another call and send them another email. And then what we do is we send a monthly newsletter.
Yeah.
And there we go. And there is somebody doing a lot more than that, and therefore getting to that person much better. What happens when if you're getting 100 leads a month, for argument's sake, coming into your system, or 500 or 1,000, month one you got all your sales team with zero in their inbox, so to speak, and they're hungry and they go for all those leads. But soon they start identifying that the leads are not engaging the way they want them to engage. So they're following up a Google Ad lead or a Facebook lead or a portal lead, and they call the person when it's their turn, and if they call the person, and the person doesn't answer, that means the person isn't buying in their book.
Yeah.
If they identify that with that lead, it says, for example, Facebook in the source in the CRM, if they're using one, and then the next person they call and say there's no answer, it also says Facebook. You'll then create a mentality within the sales team that Facebook leads are no good, and then it will be a self-perpetuating prophecy. So you'll have as a scenario, which you must have seen this, and I've seen this 100 times, is month one, the company thinks that you're amazing as an agency because suddenly they've got 100 leads and they're excited and there's momentum and everybody's buzzing. Month two, the owner of the agency starts saying to you, I'm not sure about my sales team. They don't seem to be connecting with many people. Month three, the sales teams spend the whole month two convincing them that it's the leads that are no good, and I'm being polite in that word. And month three, you get the boss or the owner of the agency saying, these leads are crap. That's the more politest way I can put it. These leads are crap. That's why we're not selling. Because if they were good, people would respond and say, yes, please. And it really stems down to the follow-up process, where they're doing it, how they're treating it, and understanding what those leads are, what the person that's inquired, what they're expecting to happen as a result of that inquiry. And I've spent years looking at this, and it's very simple mathematics. Is much easier to double a conversion rate than it is to double the number of leads, particularly for the same budget. It's but that again, that tends to happen after they've had the nice website. They've then started their marketing too late. They've then realized that they have no follow-up procedure, and their mate in the pub, who also has an agency who's doing really well, says, well, we use HubSpot or whatever. They then have a conversation with somebody about HubSpot. In the Costa del Sol, it would be Voodoo, who are the main HubSpot agency for real estate. Then they'll come back to you as an agency and say, well, I've heard that this is important. Can you integrate those leads into the CRM? And then we're talking a year later by the time this whole game is over. So what I'm advocating, and I think that you can probably give anybody watching this a little bit of feedback on how to unjumble their minds a little bit, is you kind of have to get your ducks in a row from the beginning and understand how long things take, what things cost, and that comes back to what you were saying a little bit about the multi-channel strategy, but on not just on levels of the website and where you're going to get your leads from, but the bit in the middle, which is the bit that connects
Yeah.
the lead with the sale, and that process there.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that you've just said there. I mean, coming back to the fact that it is a multi-channel approach when it comes to marketing. I mean, CRM is one of the most important aspects of that. And some people don't see their CRM as a marketing channel, but it is, and it obviously it can empower people to set up the drip campaigns. It might be that you send out sort of reduced price property alerts on properties that people have previously inquired about. There's quite a lot of things that you could do with a CRM in that sense. But I think in a lot of cases, people have to do a lot of estate agents have to do a lot of soul searching and try and analyze why clients would use them over somebody else, and then work backwards from there, and then realize that look, these are the channels. This is the area where we're falling down. We're not getting back to a client as quickly as this other agent down the road. Our website looks appalling. They're not seeing us on social media, so it is quite a daunting prospect for an estate agent to enter into the world of marketing. Obviously, that's why people like us exist, Alfredo, so that we can provide that guidance. But there are that many options, and that's why we get asked this question quite a lot. So how am I going to attract more sellers? We know that in the UK and the US, estate agents are particularly driven by attracting sellers, as opposed to in Spain when they want to attract international buyers. So there's a completely different approach, and you've got to consider everything. But the CRM is an absolutely huge component of that.
Which three would you recommend for real estate?
Property base. We've got another one that's coming on the market called Vault. Not coming onto the market, but entering more into Europe, called Vault. VAULT. Vault.
Oh.
Yeah. HubSpot. We would encourage that as CRM solution. I know that there are plenty of CRM solutions in the Costa del Sol as well, so there will be others.
I think there's a saying that is that the best CRM is the one that you actually use.
Yeah.
And from my experience anyway,
yeah.
Even choosing a CRM, it has to be the right one for the agent. If the agent is a technophobe and doesn't want to connect anything to anything, doesn't want anybody to see their emails, that's fine. That's their business model. But then the approach and the marketing needs to be something that works with that rather than against that. There's no point spending a whole bunch of thousands of euros in a really fancy CRM system where you're cutting and pasting your emails by hand into the little notes thing and putting a date on it and pinning it to the top, because you're basically using it as a post-it note holder. So, and it just aggravates everybody. The company that's done it feels like it's being set it up and manages it seems frustrated. Some of the staff are going to be a bit more tech savvy than perhaps the bosses, and they're going to realize it's not happening properly, and it just creates frustration. So I think the consultation process that happens at the beginning of a project, websites, marketing, CRM stroke sales follow-up, social media strategy, even the whole thing, it just so much can be avoided, so much pain can be avoided by just looking at the likely pitfalls of certain things, because there aren't that many new ideas. And going back to what you were saying about identifying the USPs of a particular agency, what makes you guys better than the other guy that's got Marbella in their title? You know, you're Marbella Property Marbella, and their Property Marbella. What makes you different? And if You're About Us says that we've got combined 25 years experience in the real estate sector, and if it says we offer an A to Z service, and if it says we have access to 25,000 properties, you can buy that About Us section in a rubber stamp where you just put your name in the little gaps. And you choose 20, because that's not USP, because everybody's saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And if you're selling, if you come into the market saying we're going to hit a niche, we're going to do only properties, for argument's sake, in Benahavis, that's it, that's our niche. And then you start and you think, oh, but what about Marbella? That's what everybody's looking for. And okay, well, it's Benahavís or Marbella, and you start diluting it like that. I'm not saying necessarily Benahavís is the answer or Marbella, but you start diluting it into this wishy-washy, and it's the Costa del Sol, and it's everything, and it's all property types, and we're luxury, but there's also stuff for 200 grand, and
Yeah.
and this is very common. It's a very understandable process because you kind of and I've found that over the 6 month period, initial period, this is for startups again, the this process of dilution is actually an evolving one that is directly in correlation to the stress that starts building up with the lack of cash flow that I was talking about.
Yeah.
So that marketing is on day 2 and they're already diluting their marketing message elsewhere because it's actually month 5, day 2, since they've been forking out money since that first meeting they had with you about the branding, for example. Yeah. So it's also a little bit out of sync. And if they can, if people can just find somebody or a company that they can talk to that says, what this is what I'm trying to achieve, and just then move everything forward based on the reality of their situation, the reality of their cash, their financing abilities. Maybe the strategy will be greatly impacted if they don't have deep pockets. It's a couple of ex members of another agency starting their own thing and they don't have a backer. Then the strategies is a lot of things that could wait till year 2.
Yeah.
A lot of cool things that they should do, but not yet.
Yeah.
If they're going to need sales straight away, there's certain things that you can do, but you kind of have to be realistic about who you are and what your agency is. And most of the time, the agencies aren't that unique. They really aren't, because they're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And so if you aren't unique, then you have to do some soul searching, like you said. About I used to say this back in the day when I worked on SEO. I quit that a long time ago. Was why do you deserve to be on page 1? Honestly, if Google did its job right, it would only show the people that deserve, right? The companies that deserve to be on page 1.
Yeah.
SEO, in the sense of that, is, in its true sense, it's to if it does, everybody does their bit correctly, it should reflect, it should show those websites or companies that deserve to be in the position that they're in. If you're further back than you deserve to be, you need a company to do your SEO for you, right? In just very general terms. If you're a page 1 and you started last week and you just put the word Marbella in 4,000 times, like used to work, doesn't work anymore really, then you don't really deserve to be there, do you? And that was the conversation I used to say a lot to people. Is like, okay, so let's have a look at page 1, the conversation we had earlier. Marbella Villa for sale. Okay, let's see what's on there. This panorama that's been here for 50 years or 40 years, and they are a luxury real estate company in the Golden Mile that sell houses of 2 to 5 to 10 million. Then there's Dinah Morales, same story. They've been here since 1989, and they are a luxury real estate. They do sell villas in Marbella, that sort of thing. What have you got? You haven't even got the listings. You're getting 20,000 imported into your site from an MLS with the descriptions and text that are the same as another 1,500 agents. So your website that has 10,000 pages in the various languages and stuff like that indexed with Google really has the homepage and the About Us page the way you have it, and a blog talking about sardine festivals. So so it's kind of like stripping things down to say, okay, now let's talk about what we're going to do, and I really wish that if there's anything that anybody could take from this is just simply speak to somebody that knows the path, and just lay your cards on the table and get a strategy that matches your realities, and there is a strategy for everybody. You don't have to be luxury. You don't have to be low end. You don't have to spend 10 grand a month on Google ads. It just depends on your setup, but it has to be the right strategy.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and all too often the only marketing strategy an estate agent might have is to advertise on 2 or 3 property portals, and that's it. And that's what's so disappointing when you're able to provide so many results as you'll have experienced yourself, Alfredo, when it falls on deaf ears and they've got an opportunity to build their own brand. I just wanted to come back to the CRM, if that's okay. And you mentioned that a good CRM is one that actually gets used. And I agree with that, but I think a good CRM is also one that can educate you and educate you on your customers. And that can be achieved very well with a really tight integration with the website. So if client A inquired last week, then client A might then be on your website the following week. if your CRM knows that, then that really empowers your sales team to be able to go out and speak to that client when you know that they're hot. So your CRM educating the sales teams in that sense is very, very powerful.
I mean, what would you say are, you deal with a lot of different CRMs directly and indirectly, and most of them have a lot of different tools. Are there any tools in particular that you'd say these tools are the go-to? Because they'll have different packages, and what scares a lot of people is just the pricing is a bit all over the shop, isn't it? It's either
Yeah.
50 euros or it's 5 grand, and I'm not sure which one I am.
One of the biggest tools, I think, is the tight integration between the website and the CRM. And that's not just me saying that as a website solutions provider. It really is a strong sales and marketing tool. If you know what's happening on your website, if you think about it now, the amount of opportunity in what you don't know is happening on your website right now is phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. If you knew who was on your website and when they were on, what properties they were shortlisting, when they might have, when a price drop has been attributed to a property that somebody inquired about 6 months ago that might still be interested, then that's an absolute game changer. But a CRM that also allows for sort of automated drip campaigns would be my.
And this is email drip campaigns you refer to, right?
Email drip campaigns, yes. So you can keep really close to your client base and stand out from the crowd, because it might sound crazy, but it's not. Quite a lot of estate agents don't even have a CRM. They're still using the old spreadsheets and tracking things that way. So there are lots of people. I mean, if we're talking about why would an estate agent choose you over your competitor, they'll choose the one that's got a really interactive and dynamic and automated CRM solution, because that's doing all the work for them.
I got a few tips on the subject to do with CRMs for tools that they might want to do. At least what I've found to be super useful for agents. On the sales tool side of things is email tracking.
Yeah.
Automatic email login, so they're not having to copy and paste, and they're not writing stuff on their Outlook over there and writing manually. I sent them an email. I mean, the amount of very successful large companies, real estate companies and property development companies, where they're doing that, where they're pasting from their email into the CRM what they just emailed, and then the reply, they paste in that back in. So email tracking, so that so that everything's logged automatically, and that when the lead opens the email that you sent them, that you're notified, and that it's also logged, that's automatically logged, that they have opened that email in your CRM, because that changes how you follow that email up. If you know they opened it, then you know that they've at least consumed something that's on that thing, and you can change the tactic on how you follow it. Similarly, like you said, if you get a notification a week and a half later that's when they've opened it, that might be a good time to follow them up.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
do you think to the thing I sent you? So tracking, I would say, would be definitely one of them. The other one is being able to have some level of automation. And that applies both to the marketing side, as you were saying with the drip campaigns. I mean, the drip campaign done manually is every week, someone in the office goes, "Oh, let's send that second email out," and let's send it to him. He opened. Let's see who clicked. So having some sort of level of automation, and automation sounds very robotic and very AI and very inhuman, but automation done correctly actually allows a team to behave more humanly towards when they should. And the example of that is, you've got 1,000 leads that you've accumulated over the year. You're a salesperson. You get your 10, 20 leads a week, and you've been there for a few years, and you have a bunch of leads, 500 to 1,000 leads that you're the owner of within the CRM. You can't possibly do anything with that kind of scale. Like some of the sales gurus will tell you, call every one of your people every Tuesday, set the morning aside. You can't make 1,000 calls, and you don't want to make 1,000 calls, and they don't want to receive 1,000 calls. So you kind of have to think, okay, well, what is it that I could do as our number of leads and potential buyers are in the system? What is it we can automate to free me up, so I'm not doing admin time, so I'm not doing copying and pasting? Because there's a stat, I don't know how recent it was, but for which it was one of these Salesforce type stats, which was, I think, it was 35% of a typical real estate salesperson's day is spent doing admin.
Yeah.
So if I can take that 35% away and automate the bits that are the same thing, if you're cutting and pasting that same email as a standard response to a lead coming in, why do we need you to do it? Why do we need to wait till the next day till you're on duty, till you finish your morning meeting? to paste that text in there. Let's automate that. But let's make the phone call or the WhatsApp or whatever that you should do to follow it up. Let's make that you. Let's make that human, And then if 2 days later you want to fire another email, if they didn't open the last one, say changing the tactic, let's automate that too. If it's the same message, and so using automation to free up admin time, both for marketing and sales, I think is if you can do to any degree in within this CRM, because these tend to be the bolt-on tools around a CRM, aren't they?
Yeah.
And quite often you don't know, do I need that? Don't I need that? And I think those two things together, if they're used, is a game changer within an agency.
It is absolutely, and I mean, you just touched on it there as well. I mean, we both work in the digital space, and we're both advocates for digital marketing and digital approaches to things. But I would never ever encourage anybody to just purely rely on it, and you do need that human touch and to put that personal feeling behind any inquiries that you do receive. All too often we hear of clients that, estate agents that don't pick up the phone. They'll receive an inquiry, they'll set out an automated email or WhatsApp or SMS would be sent out, and that client would never actually receive a call until they'd engaged with either the email, the WhatsApp, or the SMS. And it's ludicrous, really. And we need to. I know, like I say, we're both advocates for the digital side of things, but the number one tip is just to pick up the phone, speak to people, build that relationship.
Yeah, I would add to that the first lesson that salespeople will tell you is get on the phone straight away and give them a call, and that's a good starting point. The second lesson that comes after you've learned that lesson, so you're no longer scared of picking up the phone or intimidated by it, particularly when you see that it says Facebook in the source. You think, what's the point of calling? They never answer. That kind of sensation that you get in sales team is hopefully somebody in the outfit or your marketing agency will give you some guidance in that the guy that filled in a brochure download on a landing page versus the guy that filled in the callback request form on your website, they're expecting different things to happen.
Yeah.
And if you treat them both as if they're callback requests, you'll annoy the brochure guy. And if you treat them both as if they downloaded the brochure, let's let them have a read, then you're going to lose the callback guy.
Yeah.
You see, so it's not trying to complicate life, because most people don't have that many sources of leads or types of forms. But even within a particular source of lead, just looking at the landing page that you're using and that the marketing agency, someone like us, has suggested that's going to give them a better conversion rate, it doesn't mean that it's good or bad or that it should change or whatever. But just be aware of what is the person that's submitted that form expecting to happen next.
Yeah, the customer journey.
And then go along with it rather than against it. One of the an example I remember from a few years ago, a real example from an agency that we'd been told that the leads were rubbish, to be polite. So we started looking at the communications of the lead follow up and the CRM and all this sort of thing, looking at what was happening. And there was an example of a lead, which they were having leads from many different sources, but there was a lead from a landing page which had a video in it for a very nice villa in Marbella.
Mm-hmm. And
that landing page with the villa with the video on it, so when you went on the landing page, the video, the drone video, the property tour appeared. Mm-hmm. It had request more info, request dossier, and some other thing like that. So this person had requested more info. If I remember correctly, it was like a Belgium chap based in the UAE, and from the email address, it was one of those email addresses like yuns@apple.com or something fairly important, that isn't just Gmail or Hotmail. You think it could be anybody. That when you Google it, you realize that they're like a senior CEO of a large corporation. That's what I did after to check, right? Anyhow, my point was that there was this Dutch guy in the UAE, I think it was Dubai or somewhere, and he'd submitted the form, and in the message box, he'd written, basically the message was something to the effect of, I'm coming to Marbella in 2 weeks' time. I'd like more information about this property. No phone calls, please. So what the integration did, this is what you're talking about, the integration from the website or landing page into the CRM, just took the guy's details and put it in the CRM.
No message.
Then I looked at the CRM and I looked at the communications, because they did have the emails logged, mm-hmm. which was good. I saw the email, and the last email that was sent to this chap was from the salesperson, and the email said, Dear Mr. Jensen, I've been trying to call you and you're not answering. So
Yeah.
please find below a link to the YouTube video for this property. Regards.
Yeah.
So the guy gets the thing and he's like, wait a minute, I told you I didn't want you to call me. I've just come from a page that has the video. So this is your follow-up. What am I
Yeah.
going to do with that?
Yeah.
And this is an extreme example. And this is it's like €4.5 million property.
Mhm.
And this is the company. The reason I was looking at this because they said the leads were rubbish.
Mhm.
So I was thinking, okay, I know a dozen other agencies that would have killed this, would have
Yeah.
converted this lead. And there have been occasions back in the days when I was running maybe 20, 30 campaigns at the same time, different ones,
Mhm.
where I would see the same Mr. Johnson come in from one landing page and then come in 15 minutes later from a different landing page from a different agent. And I
Yeah.
just knew that this agent was going to get him.
Yeah.
And this way, would I wait till Monday, send him something in the afternoon, cut and paste 400,000 words with a. And so that's what I'm getting at is that using the technology to help you be more efficient and make the right decisions. And was it the salesperson's fault for writing that email? Not really. That would have been their follow-up protocol. Make 4 phone calls probably, and then send them an email. And she didn't know that he'd seen the video because she didn't know where he'd come from. So so
No.
then that's how you kill leads. So then that affects your conversion rate. That affects your whole team's morale.
Mhm.
That kills your cash flow. And
Mhm.
so the starting point a lot of the time is just getting that right. And
Yeah.
and that can be just following, just looking at what it is that they just filled in. Like what are they expecting to happen? Just ask that question. What's this person expecting to happen? And what do I want to happen? And just get to the point.
Yeah.
And the most common one as a final thing, and this is
Mhm.
I would say 8 out of 10 agencies that I've seen their follow-ups is the person goes on a website or landing page where there's all the photos, like 15 photos. There is a website, 15 photos of this property, 500 word description. Whether it's got electrical certificate, what the rubbish tax is every year,
Mhm.
and then there's a form that says request more info, get in touch, or something like that next to that, and they fill this in. And 8 out of 10 times, the agency's official standard response to that is an email that is basically what they just saw.
Yeah.
So it's this property is blah 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 blah. Here's 15 images. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here are the floor plans. Here's the thing, and they unload this lorry load of information in the spirit of being helpful.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, if at the end of the 4,000 words and the 35 meg attachment, at the end it says, "Please let me know if I could be any further assistance."
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're thinking, wait a minute, you need to find why did they inquire? They already saw this stuff.
Yeah.
If you wanted to be hardcore sales, you might go, when would you like to see it? Like,
Mm.
what happens next? What was your question? How can I help you? Straight away to the point. And I'm not the sales guys. These are fantastic salespeople. What I'm saying is, they're not taking the conversation further forward, so it's not moving forward. And because it's not moving forward, the leads get ditched.
Yeah. And the marketing agency gets ditched as well.
Yeah, and then they find someone else and just rinse and repeat. And I think this probably will resonate with either people that have done it, or certainly agents that have worked at agencies where this is the sort of process.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be that way.
Exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, even in the sales side of things, if a potential client inquires about one development or a resale property, it might not actually be the right property for them. So you've got to take that consultative approach and make sure that from an estate agent perspective, make sure it is the right property for the client. And if you take that approach, I think you'll end up closing a lot more deals.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably most agents would say that the the property or development that they inquired in originally very rarely ends up being the one that they buy because
Yeah.
there's other options. So what you're looking here in a sales perspective is you're trying to identify two things. Are they a buyer?
Mhm.
Are they looking to buy in some period of time that have got semblance of a chance of making some money or making a sale this year? Or where are they in the buying process? You
Mhm.
categorize them as such. Quite often where we go wrong as marketing companies, I think, is that the delivery of the lead to the agent or through the marketing, the sales follow-up is happening too soon almost. But I don't mean they're making the phone call too soon. I just mean that person isn't at that place
Yeah.
yet. They're not ready for that approach. And therefore the approach comes in too heavy and it just goes it's that phone call 5 seconds after you downloaded the brochure.
Mhm.
Yeah. It will get you some sales for sure. Because some people go, great, let's I downloaded the brochure because I want to buy it in here.
Yeah.
But in a lot of cases, the person will just be thinking, I haven't looked at the brochure yet, so what are we going to talk about? And that's up to each individual agency to decide how they want to, how aggressive they want to be or non-aggressive. But it just has to make sense,
Mhm.
you know, and understand that that they've probably inquired in 4 or 5 other agencies, websites and landing pages, or even a portal and several properties, which would be other agencies. So you have a very short window to build rapport and start that conversation going, and it has to be as easy as possible for them so that they want to engage with you more. And the technology is there in place at the moment now that once you have them, once you've got the cookie installed and you've got some of their details, you can play the long game with those who don't want to engage straight away. And that's the nurturing, the drip campaigns, that kind of thing, remarketing. You just want to identify buyers and get them in the machine. And if the machine is oiled well, when they're ready, you'll know about it. And why? Because the CRM will be giving you that sort of lead intelligence as they're coming in. The agents are talking to them, are enriching that data to more about these buyers, and then they're getting the right treatment. There's no point putting them down a funnel for 3 million euro villas if they came in on 100 grand apartment, for example,
Yeah.
because it's just not going to happen.
Well, like we said earlier, like five, maybe even 10 agents are going to be dealing with that same lead. So it's best agent wins, isn't it? And how you treat that person during the whole journey of their purchase.
So as a final point, you mentioned remarketing. What's that for the uninitiated?
Basically, it's remarketing to your audiences. So it's getting in front of people that have either previously engaged with your brand or your website or get engaged with you in some way. So that's then sort of retargeting the audiences that you've already built, and it's a huge component to what we're doing here at Property Webmasters with regards to lead generation and the marketing strategies that we use.
In the case of, for example, previous visitors to the website, remarketing isn't marketing to those who filled in a form and left their details. It's marketing to everybody else.
Oh yeah. Just any visitor that's been on your website, either through the Facebook Pixel, you can then sort of remarket to them through social media channels. So it's staying in the minds of people, and it is. Don't know the exact percentages with regards to like a sweeping statement of percentages of people that wouldn't engage with your website first time. It would be around the 98, 99% mark, I think, with regards to traffic. So there's 99% of your website traffic that you need to be engaging with in the following days and weeks and months beyond their first interaction with your brand.
The good thing with that is that it's compound, which means that if you're retargeting last week, say you had 1,000 visitors a month to your website, and you get 10 inquiries from those. Well, you wouldn't get that. 5 inquiries, if that, from those visitors. That means there's 995 that you don't know who they are, but you can retarget through ads and other messaging. And the beautiful thing about that is that this week's 950 gets added to last week's 950 or 995, and it actually becomes quite a big audience that builds up pretty quickly in relation to what you're having on your mailing list of those 5 getting added. Those 5 leads that you're putting into your MailChimp account and hitting is 10, it's 15, it's you are literally talking that it's, if a good conversion rate is somewhere between 1 and 5% on a good day, on a worst case scenario, you're not hitting 95% of those people, but that does compound so that it builds up very quickly. And however they found you, if it was through paid ads or organically through the SEO efforts, they're semi-qualified already because they've found you already. So if you're okay with the Google ad, you're okay with them when you're hitting them again. And if they re-engage with you in remarketing, they already know what you're about. Quite often, that first hit, their first visit, they're having a look, they've clicked on something, they see an ad, the curiosity. So to actually go back to the place that you came to a few days later, when you see a different message, you're coming in a little bit more educated in where you're going, and if there's a forum, you kind of know there's going to be a forum as well. That kind of thing. So at least.
Yeah, it educates you in the sense that you know who your target audiences are, so you can build campaigns around the similar similar kinds of people and build lookalike audiences for further marketing strategy and the campaign rollout. So it is vital to any campaign.
So what's your normal approach then at Property Webmasters? If somebody wanted a website or just marketing, do you do both separately, or is it?
Yeah, well, it always comes in a consultative approach. So if we think that, I don't know, if somebody came to us and said that they wanted PPC, but they had an absolutely terrible website, then we would be upfront and honest and say, look, it's not going to work out for you because we're going to be driving traffic to your website, and it's not fit for conversions. So you're going to be unhappy with us very quickly because of the performance of your website. So we would have that frank discussion with the client. There's no real typical scenario. We have people coming to us for website software solutions who end up coming on with us for marketing further down the line, and vice versa. So people will come with us for marketing. We've got our own landing page solutions as well. So they'll come on board with us for marketing and landing page solutions, but then maybe after 6 weeks they'll decide that they want a new website so that we can explore other marketing channels as well. So it's really, yeah, it's really down to the client and what their objectives are.
So it's just a case of getting in touch and explaining what they want, and you kind of lead the way from there.
Yeah, and I think that's how it should be, and I think that's the approach you take as well, Alfredo. I don't think you pull any punches when you're giving people advice. Nobody wins if we give them the wrong advice. So
no, everybody's got the same objective.
You want a client that's going to be with you for a long time, don't you? You don't want just 4 weeks of a client knocking on your door saying, "Where's all my leads?"
I think the biggest danger zones, or the areas that require the most care from an agent deciding which way to proceed, both for website and for for marketing, digital marketing, are those two scenarios that we mentioned, which is the startup, or the existing one that is changing tactic.
Yeah.
If it's an existing one that has a business model that's been successful and they're just looking to renew the website or pump up their marketing or add another source of leads to their mix, generally speaking, it's a fairly, if they know what to expect, and it's a fairly smooth process, I would say. Where you got to take extra care is if you're starting out, there's a lot of things to consider that you can avoid in advance, or if you're changing tactics, and this is very common recently particularly over the last 5 years, where things are getting a little bit more modern, virtual viewings, all this tech is kicking in, and some of the older school agencies feel like they're falling behind, and I'm finding that they're asking, they're not sure which of all these new buzzwords they're supposed to be doing. So they're quite often asking for something in good faith is not going to give them the outcome they think is going to get. And that's where it's important to just take the time. And the worst thing you could do, I think, is if you're changing tactic as an agent or you're starting out, is just to go and say, this is what I want. Here's my website that I want. Off you go, Jamie. Digital marketing, I want 50 leads a week from there, and I don't want a landing page. I don't believe in them. If you've not done it before because you're a startup, or just because you were experienced within a real estate agency as a salesperson but didn't deal with all that side of things, doesn't make you experienced in that side of things. And it would just be painful for you. There's a lot of things that you haven't considered. And similarly with the existing one, most of the time when I speak to an agent that wants to change tactic completely, so a listing agent that wants to go for direct sales, or a direct sales that wants to go for listings, or developer more often than not that wants to get some direct sales and to move their stock a bit quicker. It's not just that the mathematics is different in terms of what they're going to have to invest and certain considerations they may not have thought about, but quite often it's not going to happen with their current setup. So it might even involve a change of personnel and some large investments in change of CRMs and the websites, like you said. So finding out very quickly from a marketing agency or a web development agency, is this fit for purpose? This is what I'm thinking. And letting you advise a little bit based on your experience is going to save them 6 months to a year's worth of pain, many thousands of euros. And really, you can't predict everything, but a lot of things you can predict, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we started out this conversation with which marketing channel should you invest the most in as an estate agent, and there's no real single answer to that, is there? It's very much taking that research approach where you're looking into the client, looking at their objectives, So my advice in that sense would be speak to somebody who knows what they're doing. Don't sort of jump in feet first with just what you've heard as a buzzword. SEO, like I say, is very, very rewarding, but very, very difficult at the same time. But what does, I feel, underpin everything is the website itself. 100% of your client base will engage with your website at some point. That's why I would position that the website as the number one priority for anybody looking to get more traction in the digital space.